Hi everyone, my name is Matt and welcome to my channel. I have a fine art background in landscape oil painting and I focused a lot on paint mixing and color theory. I think one of the most useful things a painter can have is a set of neutral gray paints, and since I haven't found a manufacturer that makes anything like this, I mixed one myself from black and white, and I'd like to show you how you can mix your own set too. I wanted a set of grays ranging from black to white, with each shade spaced equally apart. And after doing a bunch of mixing and testing, I settled on this set of 8 grays. Let's start mixing first, and then I'll talk about how to use them and share a few recipes. First thing you'll need to do is mix a grayscale using black and white. I'm using Vallejo Game Color, but any good quality black and white paint should work fine. I think a wet palette is really useful here, since the paint will stay wet and you'll likely have to adjust some of the mixtures anyway. Just work from one end all the way across, and when all 8 shades are done, I can reevaluate them and see what adjustments need to be made. They're looking pretty good now, so I'm going to put them down on a piece of paper. Acrylic paint tends to darken as it dries, so you'll likely have to do some more adjusting again. This is a really good exercise in mixing and fine-tuning colors, and it'll help develop your eye. Number 8 is looking a little too dark, so I'll lighten that up a bit. Now that the grayscale is done, we can start mixing the big bottles of paint. I like dropper bottles, and I ordered a big pack of these online. You could just as easily clean out some old paint pots too. That's what I did for one of the first sets I made a long time ago. You'll also need a small mixing container, and I find it helpful to make a mark on the side so I know how much paint to mix. Fill up one of your empty bottles with water and pour it into the mixing cup. Then you know exactly how much paint you need to make. Let's start off by mixing gray number 8. Fill up the cup nearly to the line with white. We want to add the black paint just a couple drops at a time. Mix using a stick or an old brush and slowly work your way towards the color you want. Brush a small amount on your grayscale and let it dry, and then see how you need to adjust the mix. I need to add a little bit more black, just a couple drops at a time. Eventually you want to get a mix that's so close the test mark disappears. There we go, looking like a real close match, so let's put it in the bottle. I like to add a few drops of airbrush medium as well, so the paint pours easier. I like to add a little bit more medium at the end to help get the last bit out of the cup. I'm running low on gray number 2, so I'm going to mix up some of that while I have all the supplies out. Since we're just using black and white, I don't need to bother cleaning out the cup. Just make sure to scrape the sides with your mixing stick. I put in mostly black first, about 3/4 of the way up to the line. Then I added some white and mixed it up to see where I'm at. Remember to grab a small amount of the mix and paint it next to the sample. Once it dries, you'll know if you have a match or not. I got really lucky with eyeballing this mix and happened to get it right on the first try. Make sure to label each bottle with a marker so you know what's inside it. The marker will rub off over time, so I like to cover it with a piece of clear tape. Craft paint is a lot cheaper, and I like to use it on bases when I can. Gray number 4 is really close to Dawnstone, so I mixed up a bottle with black and white craft paint. Every paint manufacturer has a few different grays, but there isn't a system or formula to them. Sometimes they're neutral, lighter or darker, but often they have a warm or cool tint to it. These grays are perfect for the times I want to have a gray that's totally neutral. Because they're made from the same white and black paint, the whole set is consistent in viscosity and opacity. These grays are also great for mixing. You can create a full spectrum of neutral colors. Let's dive into a few of my favorite recipes that use these grays. For a clean neutral white, base coat with gray number 8. 2 or 3 thin layers is ideal, and I would recommend airbrushing this stage whenever possible for best results. White is one of those colors that many painters find difficult. Since white is as bright as you can get, you can't highlight it. I think the trick to painting white is to use a very light gray for the whole process instead of white, and then take pure white at the very end and paint some edge highlights. When I developed this set of grays, I settled on 8 shades in part because the lightest gray ended up being the perfect white base coat for my painting style. The shade that works for you may differ based on how broad your highlights are and how deep you shade it. With a smooth base coat applied, paint some soft glaze shadows with gray number 6. Check out this video here for a more in-depth guide on glazing. Then I painted gray number 4 in the deepest recesses. With all that done, now I can go in and pick out the edges with pure white. Sometimes I'll paint a thin glaze of white as well, but it's not totally necessary and depends on the shape of the surface. Usually I paint white with a cooler, blue shade. I started it out in the same way with a smooth base coat of gray number 8. After the base coat's dry, paint some glaze shades with thinned Fenrisian gray. Then paint a deep line shade with rust gray. And finally pick out the edges with pure white. Sometimes I'll glaze a little bit of the white as well, depending on the model and the shape of the surface. Black can be another tricky color for the same reason as white. Black is as dark as we can go, and there's no way to shade it, unless we base coat with a really dark gray that's almost black. I base coated the cloth with gray number 1, and painted a few layers for a smooth finish. Next, I thinned down some black paint with water and painted it directly into the areas where I want shadows. I'll paint some thin glazes along the edges of those shapes to blend them out. Then for highlights I'll use gray number 2, first painting some soft highlights using glazes, and then pick out a few of the edges. The final highlight will vary based on how the rest of the model looks. Usually I'll end at gray number 4, but if I'm really pushing the highlights on the rest of the model, I might highlight the black areas up to gray number 6. A set of grays like this is really useful, and I hope you give it a shot and mix a few of them. Maybe one day a paint manufacturer will make something like this. Or if one of those manufacturers is watching right now, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to collaborate. I plan on making a few more mixing and color theory videos over the coming weeks and months, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss out on any of those. If you have any ideas for a future video, drop a comment below and share your thoughts. Well, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and until next time, happy painting!